So I wanted to first start with some, pride related questions to the show, just because we're in Pride Month right now, and Felix
Yeah,
is
happy
a
Friday.
full-on queer superhero.
Hmm.
But I wanted to know for you whether you had any input into how the character evolved from script to screen, and in regards to his queer identity, and whether that was a big draw for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it was the draw initially. The only thing that I really knew about Felix was that he was queer and that he was a vegetarian, which I appreciated. There were long calls at the beginning on what really who Felix was and what queerness looks like and feels like post apocalypse.
Yeah.
I'm constantly living in this queer spiral, so I was throwing layers and layers on it. And Scott said something to me, Scott Gimple said something to me that was pretty poignant. The only binary that exists post apocalypse is dead and alive. Everything else kind of dissipates, which I
Yeah.
thought was just like the most beautiful idea, right? If only we could all think about the world like that.
It shouldn't take a
uh,
zombie apocalypse.
it shouldn't. It should. I mean, hopefully, COVID like gave us a little bit of that education. Um, but for the most part, these we only get um, a glimpse of Felix's sexuality, right? Like, yes,
Yeah.
he is a gay man, but that is just a part of who Felix is. That's not the story that we're really telling. And I think that we forget that when we're talking about sexuality and gender identity in the public. It's just a part of who we are. It is not who we are, right?
Yeah.
And it was important to me that we played that story out with Felix.
And I think, obviously we're happy to see Felix and Will throughout the season, but what can you kind of tease going forward? Obviously, things are left in kind of a precarious situation with the end of the season, but we know you're in production on season 2 now. What are you allowed to tease there?
Yeah, well, I just
If
got out of
anything.
I just got out of a 2-hour fight training, so there's a lot of fighting this season. The show feels a lot bigger this season. I feel like last season it was really the core six of us. It was a pretty intimate show, and it was really about the backstory of these characters and them getting from point A to point B. And season 2 is from C to Z. There is so much going on, and we're actually shooting the last 2 episodes right now, so I have to be careful what I say.
That's
But
crazy.
just be ready. Anything that you thought was going to happen, throw out the window and just have an open mind.
Okay. And I wanted to ask, I know earlier this year, the official Walking Dead Twitter account, they issued this big statement saying there's no place in our fandom for hateful discrimination. I think it was especially in
Mm-hmm.
response to an episode
Felix and
of
Will,
Beyond.
yeah.
Yeah, Felix and
Mm-hmm.
Will. Just how did it feel to have that support and, just know that everyone is kind of on your side as they should be? I mean, it shouldn't be a question, but it still is.
Yeah. uh and I also just think the timing of it was really important. These last 2 years have been really confusing and disjointed, and we have lost a lot of humanity and gained a lot of humanity in other arenas. And it's just to have that support anytime is important, but especially in a time of global stress, to have the powers that be stand up and support is I mean, what more could you ask for, really?
Yeah. It's like, y'all got bigger things to be worrying about right now. Get over
We
it.
all do, honestly. We all do. Like, hate and prejudice is just it's just such a waste of energy and a waste of time. And like, quite literally, the world is on fire and changing in front of us. Like, let's focus on putting the pieces back together, not ripping them farther apart.
Yeah. Now, I know you just said you're already working on the final 2 episodes of the show. So clearly you know how everything's going to end at this point. But coming into the show, knowing it was going to be a 2-season series off the bat, that there are all these kind of connective tissues to where is Rick Grimes, what's he been up to? How much did you know from the start?
Nothing.
Nothing
From the start. Yeah, no, nothing. I mean, to be totally frank with you, the first script that I read looked nothing like the pilot episode that we actually shot. So, you know, The Walking Dead historically keeps storylines like very close to their chests. There's secret audition sites, etc. You know, but I think that like this has also been an interesting time for The Walking Dead universe. There's been a lot of changes, right? And growth. And I think that like even the team is still figuring out exactly where it's going and what it all means. And just the nature of television, everything happens so fast that decisions are being made like in real time. Things are changing. And not only that, but like we've also been shooting in a pandemic for the last 6 months here in Richmond. So we get shut down every once in a while, you know, like depending on what happens with actors and crew members, like things are constantly changing. So I've just committed to the unknown and just like rolling with the punches at this point, quite literally.
And I mean, obviously you can't say where things are going, but given the chance, would you jump at the opportunity to either be in these films that are coming up or show up on the parent series if they were to kind of align in some way?
There's a very long answer to that question, and the short answer.
What's the safe one?
The short, safe answer is absolutely.
The one that won't get you in trouble.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously the first season ended with, you know, Huck being kind of exposed as, you know, she's been betraying you guys the whole time. Is there any chance of a reconciliation between the two characters? Do you think that's something that is possible? I know that's hard for you to answer because you know where it's headed, but do you think that's in Felix to forgive or maybe find a way forward?
Sorry, my phone just cut out.
Go.
Yes, I think that everyone, here's how I'm going to answer this question. I feel like everyone has the power and access to forgiveness. It is at the top of the list of the hardest, most difficult reactions and states to live in, right? But if you can find it in your heart to forgive not only the other person but yourself in those moments, right? That's where the real growth happens. And I know that in the Walking Dead universe, just in general, these characters are constantly growing. That is the point of the show.
Yeah. And I'm curious how you think you, Nico Tortorella, would survive or handle yourself in a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, that would be just fine. I mean, didn't we?
This training, I'm sure, has helped.
Well, for sure. I mean, honestly, the whole life imitating art, imitating life. I mean, I go from shooting the first season of The Walking Dead to full apocalypse in the world to shooting the second season at the tail end of, you know, COVID. Like, I feel prepared for anything at this point. Like, let's go.